Fall's just around the corner here in the mountains, and one of the things that I often think about when fall comes, and one of the things that I really like to do in the fall is I like to think about the different types of foods that we have that are associated with fall. I like apples, I like growing apples, I like picking apples. Another one of the things that I really enjoy doing here in my high tunnel greenhouse is I like growing pumpkins. And I've grown several different varieties of pumpkins over the years here in the greenhouse, and this is a new variety that I've tried this year. It's one called Porcelain Princess, and it's designed to be a small to medium-sized pumpkin, usually about 7 to 10 pounds. I have raised them a little bit bigger than that. This pumpkin is supposed to be a real good eating pumpkin. I've not tried one yet, but it's supposed to be good for eating as well as good for decoration, and it's supposed to have a kind of a hot pink color, as you can see here. It's a deeply ribbed pumpkin, and it's really attractive to look at. And so one of the questions that we often get at the extension office is, I've got this pumpkin, but what do I do with it? How do I process it? If I want to eat it, what do I do? And so let's back up and think about a few things before we get to that point. How do I know that this pumpkin's ripe? Well, if you look at the first thing here, it has a deep, rich color to it. That's one thing that I can use to tell me that it's pretty well ready to pick. Another thing, if you'll look here at the stem's turned brown, it's dried out. When I went to pick this today, it just came right off the vine without any trouble at all. And so I know for a fact that this pumpkin's ripe. Another thing that I can do is when you look at your seed packet will tell you the days to maturity. And that will depend on the variety of pumpkin that you've chosen to grow. This particular variety says about 100 to 110 days till it's mature. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that this pumpkin's always going to be ripe at 100 days. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be ripe at 110 days. But what that does tell me that in between that time period, I can start looking for these pumpkins to come into maturity. It might be a little later, it might be a little earlier. But what that tells me is that I just need to start paying a little bit closer attention to them. And so now one other thing that I want to draw your attention to when we get ready to pick these pumpkins, especially if you're going to use it for ornamental purposes, if you'll notice here on the back, it's kind of got a green side, a discolored side. This really bothers a lot of people because it's not as attractive as the rest of the pumpkin. And if this bothers you, there is a way to fix it. Usually what you can do when you pick this pumpkin, if you'll put it in a dry place where it can receive lots of sunshine for a couple of weeks, usually this will color on in and take care of itself. Sometimes it won't. If it don't, just simply turn it to where it can't be seen, and you'll be fine. Now, one of the other questions, as I mentioned earlier, that we often get at the extension office is, how do I process this pumpkin? I like to make pumpkin pie. I like to make pumpkin muffins. So join us in our next segment where we'll show you how to process these pumpkins.